Hello everyone, today I've got a lovely little project that I'm starting. It's a single garage carport. It's timber framed, it's got black feather edge boarding on the outside. The roof has got a standard gable end on the back, it's got a hipped gable end on the front, and down to one side it's got a cat slide roof. The front, I'm making an oak facade out of English oak, and I'm also making the oak plate and supports for the cat slide roof. I've got a lovely pile of timber here and the weather's lovely as well. The first job I'm going to do is build the back wall and the end wall. I'm going to make those a standard height out of the 4x2 stud work I've got, and then because it's tight to the boundary, I'm going to clad them before I stand them up. So let's get started. Okay, the first job, the measurement of the back wall from here to here is 5 meters and 40 millimeters. The timber that we've got is a standard 4.8 meter length, so obviously we're going to have to attach a couple hundred mil onto the end. So the first job I'm doing is going to cut some half laps. These are my plates, so it's a 90 mil in half lap. Obviously I set my marking gauge to half of the thickness of the timber and then run it round. So I'm going to cut those first. One little tip is, if you're cutting a half lap on a short bit of timber, you're better off to mark it on a longer piece of timber on each end, and then you get more surface to put on the stool to lean on, so you're not trying to hold and cut a smaller piece like this. Okay, I'll get those cut. I've cut the first part of this half lap, and the little tip here is to cut diagonally through. So you start at this mark here and then go down to this mark here and then stop and flip it round the other side, and that way you're less likely to wander in your cut. See, now I've flipped it round, you've got this cut's already made, which helps guide the saw, and then you've just got to cut along here and then square the cut down. The end result is a lovely, neat and tidy half lap joint. Let's move on. Just a quick mention about how I mark out. What I'm doing here is marking these out at 400 centres. You can usually use 400 or 600 here in the UK. So what I do, instead of sort of marking my first centre line and then taking half the material off, then marking my 400s from that mark, what I basically do is, I know my material studs are 45 mil, so all I do is add on half of that onto the spacing measurement. So basically I put a mark here at 422, and then I know that 400 is going to be in the centre of the stud. So rather than resetting, I just hook my tape onto the end, so it's 400 we'll start from this end, and then so I would mark 422, 822, 1222 and so on. And then as I move down, you can see that 1222, so 1200 will be in the centre, same with 16 and so on. It's just I find it much quicker and easier to just hook the tape on the end and extend the measurement by half the thickness each time, and then you know the stud is always going to lay on the correct centre. Also, when marking out, when you've got a double plate like this, and it would be the same if you were doing it up on a roof, or if you've got bracings for a roof, you would mark one and then transfer the line across with this square to mark the other one. So you're marking them in a pair, and then mark down each side, and then basically you've got a pair, a top and a bottom, and all the marks will be exactly the same, and all the studs will be the same distance from each other. I've set up my top and bottom plates. To help me, what I've done is put the bottom plate up on the brickwork, but left a ledge here that can take the other studs as they come in. And then this side, I've propped the plate and the end stud up on some 90mm timber again, so I can just lay all my studs in, pull them right to where their marks are, and nail them through the end. So let's get that infilled. Right, that's the first panel made. Now what I need to do is stand this up and put a brace on to make it upright and square before I start fixing the boarding. So the next job I need to do is put some diagonal bracing on here. This has got some temporary diagonal bracing on it. I need to put some proper diagonal bracing through there to stop it from racking over, because obviously the boarding on the back won't be enough and it's not going to be plied on the inside because it's all open. So what I've done at 45 degrees, I've pinged a chalk line down here, and what I shall do is use my offcuts of timber and place them against the mark there and there, and then draw up the back, and then what that gives me is the exact shape to cut, and they'll fit exactly. That's that done nicely. All those joints are nice and tight all the way down there. Done that on both sides, so that's now nice and solid. So what I'll do now is take these other temporary braces off, lay it down and board the other side. Okay, I'm about to start fixing this board on. Now what I do with this feather edge boarding is, and this will be the same if it was on a building stood up, it's no different than it's laid down, is I put my first course on, and I'll hang it down. That's about sort of ½ inch from the bottom plate, so that will just lip ½ inch over the brickwork. And because this brickwork is slightly bowed, and it would generally be on most buildings, this first course I put on and it follows the bow. But then the next course I put on, what I do is I make a measurement, my gauging measurement, which is here is 148mm from here to here, and I do the same each end, and then I'll ping or snap a line all the way along. And then when I go to fit my next board, I put it to that line, and then I know we're dead straight from there. So everything that gauges off this next board is going to be dead straight. Right, that's that panel complete. That's all boarded and braced, so we're just ready to stand that up and prop it.
What happened to that before Thunder?